神羅転生
Go Tigers. It's game day. My LSU Tigers get out there. We got ourselves another game that we're going to go ahead and take the dub on. But before I go out and watch my boys win, I got to give y'all some news on the newest hero coming to Marvel Rivals, Angela. But look, I ain't going to take up too much of y'all time, man. I'm going to go ahead and knock this out and let y'all know the things that I know and the things that I feel like you should know. All right, so let's get right into it, man. Angela, the first flying vanguard in the game, but she ain't like your traditional flyer who only flies. She can actually hit the ground and get down there, and she can stay on the ground and stay active. And obviously you guys already know how that works. For her to hit the ground, that's one of her abilities, but we'll get into that one in a little bit. Let's talk about the fact that her flying movement is actually real smooth now. I'm gonna say it. It's looking solid. It's probably one of the better flyers in the game. Now, the drawback to her flying is that she has to thrust. That's her only means of attack outside of another ability. So if we just talking regular basic attacks, yeah, it's her only way to attack. And that's her left click, which is just her spear thrust. This, you gotta let that gauge charge up, right? Let that thing charge all the way up and you're gonna get some knockback and you're gonna get a whole bunch of damage in there if you can hit an enemy with it. But if you miss that shit and then you just hitting them with your regular basic attack, you gonna just do some very light poke damage that's not gonna really amount to much. And at that point, you might as well get up out the air. But if you just want to charge it back up and wait for the next time the gauge is fully charged, y'all can actually move on over to the next ability, which is her real spear thrust, which is her shift. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is on controller. I don't really play it on console all that heavy, but yeah, whichever one is her actual ability to spear thrust people, that's another good one. One is really good for movement just in case you guys actually wanted to get in or get away from danger. Two is gonna somewhat work the same way as Thor's, so think of it like when Thor spins his hammer and then flies in, you can kind of use it in that sense. Three, it does do some good damage and it's a great way to either pull the back line into your team or move the tank out the way completely and give your teammates an easy way to just get into the team's back line and do work. It's a lot of different ways y'all can use it. You already know how to use a lot of the abilities somewhat like it, so just do it the same way. Now, getting into the slam, there's a few things that y'all need to know about this. One, when you slam, you can immediately fly back into the air. The drawback to it though is you can't immediately slam back into the ground. That's got a 12-second cooldown, so you definitely want to be careful with that, man. You ain't just gonna be able to jump down and jump up at will. It's only when you slam. At any point in time you want to fly back up in the air, you can. It's no cooldown on that. But in case you decide to stay on the ground, you and your allies are supposed to get a damage buff because of the ring that you guys are seeing on screen with Angela, and the feathers that's popping up out the ground, that's doing tick damage over time. Think of it like the enemies is up in there and it's just constantly hitting them with spikes and they doing damage on top of you and your allies doing damage to them. Now, when Angela is on the ground, a few things to take note of. When she's on the ground and you just constantly attacking with your dual axe, eventually you guys are gonna see she's gonna do like this dash where she slashes in an X across at an enemy. Now, if you just keep going after, I want to say, the second or the third hit, that's when she'll do it and it'll just keep going over and over and over. Now, here's another drawback to this though. When you on the ground, you can't use your shift spear thrust. That's gone. That's only something you can use when you up in the air. So don't think you're gonna just be able to get out there, hit the ground, and still be able to spear thrust a nigga all the way back into your line. It ain't working like that. You gotta be up in the air, nigga, so just keep that in mind. Now, what you don't necessarily need to be in the air for, and it works whether you're on the ground or in the air, is when you use your shield. Drawbacks to that, obviously, but we'll talk about that after we talk about the fact that the shield gets 350 health, and while you in the air, you still get your same movement speed, so it's not like you losing any speed, which is nice. You can use it to block Iron Man ults. You can use it to protect yourself from incoming damage. Obviously, it's a shield, you know what I'm saying? It does the regular stuff that a shield does. But something else it does while you in the air is if you have the shield out and it's taking damage, that'll help build your gauge up faster so you can get your basic thrust out there and have a fully charged one a little quicker than before. So that's the nice part of it. And the last thing is, when you're also in the air, if you're using your shield, at any point you decide to use your real spear thrust with the shift button, she can. You ain't got to put the shield down and then thrust. You can use it immediately. Now, getting into the drawbacks of the shield though. The shield, if you put it down, you got to wait 2 seconds for the cooldown. Okay, that's just what it is. It ain't one of them things like Strange where you can constantly pull the shield back up. Obviously, with the 350 health, it can be broken, so you gotta wait for it to charge back up. But don't worry, it ain't a crazy wait time on that. And the last bit of drawback that I would say with this is the fact that the shield itself is more so just designed to protect Angela. It's not really great for protecting a team. Unless, like I said earlier, if y'all jump up in the air or fly in the air, more accurately, and prevent that nigga Iron Man from just one-tapping your healers, that's where you're gonna really get the value out of it like that, and obviously to keep yourself alive a little bit longer. Now moving on over to the ultimate. Boy, there's so many ways y'all can use this. I can go on and on, but I'm gonna give y'all just a few ideas. So with the ultimate, what y'all need to know is that thing can be used while you flying or on the ground. It don't matter, it works the same. Now when it hits the enemies and it's doing tick damage the same way your ground slam would, it's gonna have the spear in the middle and it's got ribbons around it. If them ribbons connect to people, they can't get out your ult, so they're gonna take tick damage. But no, that tick damage is not a whole lot, so you might want to jump back in there, and to do that, all you got to do is get close enough, hit Q again, and you're gonna get up in there and do extra damage and then just start beating the shit out of somebody. Or you could throw it, fly up in the air, go to the enemies, ground slam, give yourself another set of a ground effect with the damage boost, and keep the attack going that way. Look, it's a lot of shit you can do with this ultimate, okay? You gonna have to trust me. This thing is nice. Now, something you want to keep in mind when you're using this ultimate is that it does have a health bar, so people can destroy your spear and get rid of the ult before you even really get any real value out of it. So you definitely want to be careful with that. Don't just sit it out there and thinking, oh, we good. Nah, if them niggas destroy it, it's a wrap. I just thought about it, y'all. Something I forgot to mention earlier in the video is the fact that is when you using your ground slam ability, that's gonna last for about 10 to 12 seconds, okay? So you got 10 to 12 seconds to make something shake before it just disappears, and then you gotta wait for the cooldown of it again and go from there. All right, let's get into some fun shit, which is how your team ups work, who she's gonna be paired with, some of the pros, the cons when it comes to playing Angela. Let's just go ahead and get the bad news out the way first, y'all. Let's knock that shit out so we can get into the pros of her. The drawback to Angela is I don't believe she's a good solo dolo tank, right? I think you need somebody like a Mag. You might even want to run out there with a Thor or a Hulk, shit, even a Strange. For sure, one of the Vanguards that have a shield, you want to run with that, because with you constantly flying around, depending on how you play her, that's going to put your team at a disadvantage because the tank ain't there to help them out. Another drawback that I think a lot of people are going to run into when they playing her is because she's a dive tank and she's able to fly, a lot of people are thinking they're going to just be able to run up in there and do a whole bunch of damage, either getting into the back line or sometimes going through the front line. The reason that's going to be hard for you is because if you are the only tank, or even if there's another tank with you, but you pushing ahead of the damn team, all it takes is a hit scan character or the whole entire team to focus your bitch ass, and then you just gonna get knocked up out the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like, Angela doesn't have a bubble and a way to really protect herself outside of the shield, and once that 350 is burned through, then what you gonna do? The last con that I got for her, and this is really just me nitpicking at this point, y'all, the fact that she doesn't have a real way to do ranged poke damage. I wish that she did have an ability where she can throw the spear, maybe even if it was on like limited amount of ammos where she had to reload it. That would be nice, but the fact that she doesn't and you have to be up close and personal to brawl with niggas, that's gonna make it hard, and it's really gonna put an emphasis on the fact that she's not the solo dolo tank you want to roll with, especially if you need somebody that can kind of poke and help close that gap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think she's gonna be great for creating space, but when it's time to close that space, I think that's where you gonna need another tank on the team with you to help close that distance. Now, the pros of her, we already kind of mentioned it just a second ago. One of the pros is that I think Angela is going to be a great Vanguard to create space for the team. She can get into the enemy team's backline real easy. She can pull them forward. She can grab characters and throw them off the map. Like, there's a lot of ways for her to create space. So now that's encouraging your team a little bit more to push forward with you, because you causing so much damn chaos in that backline and dealing with them DPS that they got to turn around and focus you. And now that's giving either your other Vanguard and your 2 DPS that opportunity to easily get some shots in, because they have to focus you. If they don't, you just gonna dog walk the entire backline, the entire game that you in there. You know what I mean? So she's gonna be great for creating space. Another pro, I think there's a lot of characters in this game that Angela has a good team up with, and just throwing some out there real quick. Groot is a good one. Magneto is a really good one. Moon Knight, Thor, possibly even Wanda after the buff that she's getting in this season. And the list goes on. You know, there's more characters, but those are just some at the top of my head right now, where it's like her ult is going to mesh up so well with all of their abilities, and obviously ult to ult ratio, that'll be nice. But I think those characters are going to mesh real well with her. Obviously, like I said earlier, any tank that gives you a bubble that allows you to be back there in the back line, just causing mayhem constantly and not giving them a chance to breathe, and you creating more space, all of those things are possibilities with Angela. Now, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of y'all time, man. So to wrap this up, I do have a few tips that I think would be good in the game, and it's going to take a little practice. But, you know, difficulty level is going to range from easy to really hard. So one of the ones, obviously, just actually be a diving tank and get into the back line, dealing with the healers and the DPS. That's an easy thing to understand, but it's a little harder to do, because obviously you need your team synergy to be on point. You got to know when to get up out of there and when to jump in there and do some easy damage and stuff like that, because you will still get focused and die, so be careful. The next one would be when you are going after one of the DPS or the healers in the back line. If you get in there and you use your fully charged thrust, and then you hit them with the shift ability thrust to drag them away, either away from the team entirely or to your team, then hit them with a ground slam and get your licks up in there, that's going to be an easy kill for you. Now, again, I say easy, but if the other healer starts to look at them and focus them to keep them alive, then you might be in trouble and need to fly up out of there. So keep that in mind too. And the last tip that I got for y'all that would be real nice if you could pull it off, but it's going to take the team chemistry. You fly in, right? You dive the enemy team, whether it's in the middle or it's in the back line. Get your damage off up in there, because remember, you got 10 to 12 seconds of your slam ability that you can work with. Now, this is where it gets tricky, and you have options. You could either, one, fly up out of there and get out of dodge and wait until you get healed, or two, if you already have, let's say, a pre-existing mag bubble, or you still got a good amount of your health, you can then throw the ultimate on top of your damage that you already pushing out, do some more damage, press Q again to get the ground slam and prevent them enemies from getting up out of there, and you can really get some nice damage and possibly squad wipe the team. And I guess a little bonus tip in that tip would be, if you decided not to use the ultimate just yet, and let's say you decided to fly up out of there, now fly back around, use your thrust, right? Pull 1 or 2 enemies out of the back line, and then hit them with the ultimate and keep them within the range of your teammates to get easy damage on top of you pushing out damage. And there you go. So there you go, y'all. That's my quick early guides and tips for Angela before she even goes live, for any and everybody out there. I want to do a more advanced and in-depth guide on how to use her once she goes live, and I put a crazy amount of hours into her. So y'all stay tuned for that, man. Make sure you sub to the channel and turn that notification bell on so you don't miss it, because I'm about to go crazy. I'm about to put dummy hours into playing Angela. But that's all I got for you guys, man. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, Gojo Clan, stay up, stay blessed, and piece of hair grease.